My name is Jim Kiely. I was born in Cork in 1936, and a couple of years afterwards the war broke out, and very enjoyable youth, to be honest. Played a lot of hurling, football, grew up during the ban, and also played rugby at school, so I came home and played rugby at home, and these were the times when you weren't supposed to play any foreign game. Rugby was classified as a foreign game in those days. And it was okay when you were going to school, but the minute you got to 17 or 18 and you had to try play rugby and football, hurling afterwards, I didn't want to know. In actual fact, at one stage, the famous Cork hurler, Christy Ring, he insisted on going to the Mardyke in Cork to see all the soccer games. They put him on the vigilante committee, and that's the cynicism that was there as regards games in those days, where Ring was a member of the vigilante committee. He had no interest in being a vigilante, and he just wanted to see the soccer, but they couldn't stop him going, so they put him on the thing. But
were you bored? Were you bored when you were young? Were you bored like
no,
kids are nowadays?
No, there was very little boredom in those days.
And how did you punch the time?
We did a lot of practice as regards bowling on the roads with the bowls. They called them bullets up here, but they were bowls in our days. The fellow Toots Keller, he used to get the small bowls for us as kids, 12 ounce, 14, 16, 18. And the big bowl, I think, was about 24, 26 ounces for the seniors. And bowling was a very popular sport in Cork. Equally, there was a lot of sports festivals every Sunday, and matches midweek and matches at weekend, and a lot of out birds nesting, swimming in the rivers, chasing the girls when we came to 12 or 14. Not sure what we do when we got up with them, but they were kind of innocent days, and there were the times, of course, when the church ran Ireland, but we had no interest in the church or in anything like that. We were only interested in our own funds and games. Cowboys and Indians was a big thing when I was young, and grew up in the countryside. And again, I can remember a lot of fun, you know, during making hay in the summertime and going milking cows, all that sort of a thing. Went away to school then when I was about 13, and backwards and forwards from boarding school. Played rugby at school.
Which school did you go to?
Huh?
Which school?
I went to school to Rochestown for a year or two, played a lot of football and hurling there. Then at the end I went on to Rockwell and played rugby there. And I kind of always had an interest afterwards in rugby, but I also had interest in football. I used to come home and play football and hurling at home. And that went on until I was 18 or whatever, 17 or 18. After that then I went to college for a year. I was going to do medicine. Didn't like it, even though I'd done physics and chemistry and all that sort of thing, but I didn't like the botany and zoology, so took a year out, came back and did commerce. And during all of those years in Cork, things were very tight. There was no money in the system in the 50s. Everybody was poor, and everybody smoked, and the currency was cigarettes, you know, and if you had a few cigarettes, you were rich. I had an aunt who had a pub, and I used to get a carton now and again from her, so I'd hide them under the bed in my digs. But I was rich in those times with my carton of cigarettes. Going to the pictures, going to dances. The dances are very cheap, 1 and 6 midweek, and I think £0.5 or something at the weekend. But qualified anyhow in 1958, 59. No work, headed off to London, joined Ford Motor Company. Qualified as an accountant in 62. Really enjoyed London in those days, played a bit of rugby over there. Good fun.
What was it like being an immigrant that time in London? What was it like being an immigrant?
Yeah, we were kind of second-class citizens in London per se, but down in Essex and Fords, Cork, the Cork people kind of ran Fords, and all the plant managers were nearly from Cork, because Ford had started in Cork when he came overseas, and in I think the 20s, a lot of them went back over to Manchester, and they went back to Dagenham with Fords, so they came up through the ranks. In actual fact, Paddy Hennessy was from Cork. He was the chief executive of Fords during the Second World War, and he was knighted Sir Patrick for converting the Ford Motor Company in Essex. In about 4 weeks he turned it from a motor car company into an armaments company, producing tanks and vans and everything. And during the World War II, Hennessy ran Fords with the help of many Cork people and some Welsh people as well. And when I was with Fords right through the 60s, there was two things. You got tremendous experience, you got a lot of responsibility, and we got very well paid in the Essex. And I remember coming home in the early 60s and forgetting how frugal Ireland was. And I remember once going to Killarney and we'd owned the drinks and everything was fine. And I bought a second round and then there was no reply. And the reason was Satch gave me a kick in the ankles and said, hey, they may not have it. And then I stopped and thought, you know, in those days, everyone making £4 or £5 a week here, and we were making much more than that, and we were coming home with money in our pockets.
When you were in England, did you integrate with the locals, with the English people, or did you stick with the Irish?
Integrated with locals down in Essex.
Did you play rugby down there?
I did, played with South Indian Sea, but there was quite a few Irish involved in South Indian Sea. Don Joyce, he was a dentist down there from Mayo, so he kind of gave me a shout and asked me. I played with Mayo back home, and I played with South End for 2 or 3 years with good crack, but there was very little competition. It was all sort of annual friendlies and annual
social rugby.
Sociable rugby, and it was good crack. And I think at one stage we had about 20 teams in South End, and I played for a couple of years, a couple of matches on the first, but I wasn't that interested in training and the rest of it. But
did you ever feel like a second class citizen over there? No.
In parts of London, if you went up to London, yes, the Irish were second class citizens in those days. But everyone was second class citizens because there was a sort of a stiff upper lip thing, and the Brits looked down on everybody. So we weren't just the only ones that were second class, because I would say there was a lot of third class and fourth class citizens as well, like Commonwealth people and coloured people and Indians and the rest of it. But by and large, it's very hard to be a second class citizen if you have money in your pocket and you're qualified and you have a car.
You have the confidence.
I had my own house, I had my own car, and we had a big...
Mind you, I can't imagine you being a second class citizen.
No.
Any place.
But but it was in existence in places like banking. For example, I never had an overdraft in England. Not that I wanted it, I always had a few pounds in the bank. But I'd say we wouldn't be given it by the bank people in those days, because one or two friends of mine who were caught for money once or twice coming home, I lent it to them because they wouldn't be given, you know, small money. They were working in Fords, making big money. So looking around, this is in the early 60s, England is a different place then than it is now, but basically we were being judged as the construction, because the Irish per se, most of them were in construction, with the odd person maybe in religion and the odd doctor here and there. So they were okay, the religious people and the doctors were okay, they were accepted, but then everyone else was supposed to be in construction. And then there was a new breed, like myself, coming out of college. Then many years later I realised that when I was growing up, of about 70 or 80 people playing hurling and football, I was the only one did third level in the early to mid 50s. And it was in New York that a friend of mine said it to me a couple of years ago, John Heenan. He said, but you were one of the lucky ones, you went on to university. And I said, so what? He said, but you were the only one of the whole very lot of us that went on to university. There wasn't any regional text in those days. It was either go to university and one of the classical things, or you didn't go at all. In those days then university was very small. I think there was about 900 in UCC, there was about 500 in UCG, if that at all. And since those days, all those things, I think UCC might have 15, 20,000 now, and UCG is probably 12 or 15,000, so things have changed tremendously for the better as regards third level education.